Imagine this. A nation, South Africa, caught right between the shadowy world of global terror financing and, on the other hand, these high-stakes investigations into one of its biggest companies. Today, we're diving into how these two situations, which seem pretty separate, actually expose some fundamental tensions, in our interconnected world. We've looked at a range of sources, U.S. Treasury reports, corporate filings, that sort of thing. And our mission really is to unpack how these threads reveal critical insights into global finance, corporate responsibility, and, well, geopolitics. Let's get into it. Okay, first up. These alleged ISIS financial networks operating within South Africa. The U.S. Treasury has identified them through sanctions. And remember, these sanctions, they're powerful tools. They effectively cut people off from the global banking system, freeze assets, makes international business almost impossible for them. We're talking specific people here. Farhad Humar, named as a leader of an ISIS cell based in Durban. Then you've got Nofail Akbar, a senior member apparently, and Siraj Miller leading a Cape Town cell. Reports say they're involved in training for robberies. The activities are really diverse. Enforcement, logistics, even extortion using mosques, apparently, and procuring equipment for ISIS Mozambique, that's the affiliate just north, a huge concern. Plus, individuals like said.The involved in, criminal fundraising. And what's really striking is how they seem to use legitimate-looking businesses as a front. Companies like MA Gold Traders linked to Nofail Akbar or Sultan's Construction and Ashik Jewelers tied to Farhad Humar, they've all been designated.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, especially with recent updates like new designations in July 2024, July 2025, it really highlights the evolving nature of these networks, shows how adaptable they are, how persistent in their financial maneuvering. They're constantly finding ways to sort of embed themselves into the economy, blurring those lines between crime and actual legitimate business.
Exactly, blurring the lines. And this evolving threat, well, it raises a pretty critical question back in South Africa. How prepared are the authorities really to counter this kind of adaptable enemy? There's definitely a debate. You had a 2024 report from the Southern African Catholic Bishops' Conference expressing serious concern about perceived government inaction, and security experts are warning about a growing presence, in Johannesburg and Cape Town. But here's a really unsettling detail. Farhad Humar, despite being designated, actually tried in 2025 to register the Islamic State of Africa as a political party. It got rejected, thankfully. But the Electoral Commission didn't explicitly mention ISIS connections in its decision. What does that tell us? Why even try something so public?
Well, it's a fascinating move, isn't it? And frankly, quite chilling. It points to this desire for legitimacy, or maybe just a public platform. Even though it failed, the attempt itself, it speaks volumes. It's about testing boundaries, trying to normalize their presence, maybe under a different name. It's a tactic we've seen before. And it really forces the government's hand, right, to decide where that line is between political freedom and, well, national security.
Okay, so let's shift gears now from that sort of covert world of terror financing to the very public scrutiny facing a corporate giant, MTN, one of South Africa's biggest telecom companies. They recently, this came out in their 2025 interim financial results, that they're facing a U.S. Department of Justice grand jury inquiry.
Right, and it's important for you to understand, a grand jury doesn't decide guilt or innocence. It's a closed-door process. Prosecutors present evidence, and a panel of citizens decides if there's enough probable cause to actually indict, to bring formal charges. It's a key early step in these complex corporate cases. Now, this inquiry, it's specifically looking at MTN Group and its former subsidiary operations, places like Afghanistan and Iran. The allegations are pretty serious. Reports that MTN paid protection money to militant groups in Afghanistan, which highlights a really tough ethical spot for global companies, doesn't it? How do you keep your people and infrastructure safe in volatile regions without accidentally funding the groups causing the instability? There are also questions about how MTN got its license in Iran way back.
And this isn't totally new. They're still in a legal fight with Turkcell, a Turkish company. Turkcell alleges MTN got its big stake in Iran's cell back in 2006 through corrupt means.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this DOJ investigation isn't happening in a vacuum. Tensions between South Africa and the U.S. have been, well, worsening. You had the Trump administration putting those 30% tariffs on South African goods, for example. And even U.S. government accusations about human rights abuses against the Afrikaner community. So that adds this whole other layer of geopolitical complexity to what MTN is facing.
Right. So how much do you think MTN's current trouble is purely about its past actions versus potentially being caught up in these larger international dynamics? MTN, for their part, says they're cooperating fully with the DOJ, voluntarily giving information. That's standard procedure, but important, they state it. So These two distinct situations, right? Alleged terror financing networks on one side, international corporate investigations on the other, they really underscore a profound dynamic. They show how local issues can ripple out internationally and how global forces deeply impact a single nation. What's really striking is seeing both these narratives, covert finance, corporate governance under fire, converging right there in South Africa. It reveals the country as this crucial nexus point.
Absolutely. And it raises a really important question, I think, for all of us, not just South Africa. How do nations navigate that tension? The tension between wanting economic development, needing investment, and at the same time implementing rigorous oversight. Especially when global security and ethical corporate behavior are on the line, it's a real tightrope walk, isn't it? Balancing investment needs with upholding global standards and fighting terror.
It absolutely is. And something for you, the listener, to consider. What are the implications of these tangled global forces on how you understand international relations and, indeed, corporate responsibility today?